Hours going into Election Day. We're rejoined now by Kevin Walling, Tom Bevan, and Mark Thiessen. Welcome back to all of you.
Good to be with you.
Hey, Shannon.
Okay, I want to play the two candidates both talking about the economy. Here's a bit from both sides.
Under my plan, if you make less than $400,000, I guarantee you're not going to pay a penny more in taxes. But if you make more than that, the wealthiest, biggest corporations, the 91 Fortune 500 companies that paid zero income tax, you're going to start paying your fair share.
Joe Biden will shut down your economy, raise taxes. Wants a $4 trillion tax increase. He's the only politician I've ever seen who said, we will raise your taxes.
Okay, so Kevin, the former vice president has talked about raising taxes, about shutting down the economy again. The economy is the one thing where the president consistently pulls ahead of him. So what do you make of these competing messages and some things that may not be so popular with voters who may at this moment, it's hard to believe, may still be undecided?
Yeah, Shannon, it's a good question. I mean, to your point, when voters were asked on who better would handle the economy in recent polling, that gap has narrowed between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, interestingly enough. And of course, Joe Biden's out there in Pennsylvania all day tomorrow talking about that Scranton values versus Wall Street values. And that's been a cornerstone of his arguments going forward. You know, he has said in the last 3 years of the Biden-Obama administration, they created more private sector jobs in the first 3 years of the Trump administration before the pandemic hit. So Biden has a good record to run on when it comes to the economy. It's just a matter of getting that message out to undecided voters. To your point, how many of them are actually out there? I don't know, but it's a good argument to be making.
Okay, so Mark, this idea about Wall Street, I mean, they're the ones, those donors have lined up behind Biden. I mean, they seem, it seems like by most recent reporting, pretty bullish on Biden.
Absolutely, well, because he's got Park Avenue, not Scranton. You know, the reality is. But look, when Joe Biden says that he's not going to raise taxes on anybody making less than $400,000, he's lying. He's absolutely lying. The corporate tax increase, he's proposed $1.3 trillion corporate tax increase. Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says that 25% of the corporate tax falls on workers. So that means a $1.3 trillion corporate tax increase is a $325 billion tax increase on working class families. And then if you add to that, he's proposed $11 trillion in spending, but only $4 trillion in new taxes. Where does the other $7 trillion come from? I mean, it's not. You're going to have to raise taxes, and it's not going to be on just rich people. And $11 trillion is not the ceiling; it's the floor. Kamala Harris proposed $44 trillion in her campaign. Bernie wants $100 trillion. So it's going to be somewhere between Biden's floor of $11 trillion and Bernie Sanders' $100 trillion. Where are they going to get the money to pay for all that? Okay. That's the big problem with socialism: is you keep running out of other people's money to pay for things. Margaret Thatcher said.
Okay. Panel, if you'll stick around, we got to take a real quick break here. We're keeping an eye on the president soon to arrive in Miami, so stick around, and we will be right back. This is the fifth and final rally for the president today there in the Miami area, and he's due to touch down any minute. Well, the Biden campaign has canceled multiple events in Texas following an incident on an interstate highway. Caravan of vehicles we showed you before, and you've probably seen the pictures. They were surrounded with Trump signs, and it was around a Biden-Harris campaign bus. So we're going to talk about that. But as you can see, Air Force One has touched down there. This is just outside Miami. Florida, of course, a critical state. The president took it in 2016. It is going to be a key prize come Tuesday night. There's been a ton of early voting there. There have been some worries from Democrats down there in Miami-Dade County that they didn't get the turnout they were expecting or hoping to see in advance. So the president is down there. This is number 5 of his rallies for today. He's got 5 more tomorrow, ending in Florida tonight. So let's bring in our panel, and we'll talk about what we are seeing in these final days until the president comes out and speaks. Kevin Walling, Tom Bevan, and Mark Thiessen, good to have you all back. Okay, Tom, Florida has always been a critical prize. What do you make of this chatter that we've heard from Democrats who are worried they aren't seeing the turnout they think they're going to, or they had hoped they would get in Miami-Dade? It is obviously a left-leaning portion of the state, but it's critical. Does it tell you much that there hasn't been as good of turnout as they had hoped?
Well, it's not a good sign if that's actually what's happening. If they're not getting the turnout they need at Miami-Dade, that's where they can run up the score and offset the stuff that's going to come in for Trump in the Panhandle and other parts of the state. I think Florida's going to be close. It's going to be very, very close, and it's going to be decided. I think we'll know early which way it's going to go. The other place to look is obviously with seniors. Trump's been struggling with seniors, and you can look to Sumter County, you can look to the Villages area. Democrats think they may have a chance to really cut into Trump's lead there. And so we'll get some good early keys both from Miami-Dade and from the I-4 corridor to see which way Florida is going to be heading.
And that runs between Tampa and Orlando, that midsection of the state there. And again, as you mentioned, the Panhandle often goes differently, and it has that second time zone. So there's a lot we don't know, and that lag will often give a color sort of what we think we're seeing out of Florida. Kevin, let's talk about some of the other states that last time around Democrats felt like were maybe ignored, places like Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, that part of the country. Listen, we saw numbers out of Wisconsin last week in an ABC poll putting Biden up by 17 percentage points. A lot of people think that's an outlier. Do you think, though, that because of what happened in 2016, Democrats have been much more targeted and focused? They're not leaving out any potential state thinking that they have it in the bag.
Yeah, Shannon, I mean, the motto for the Biden campaign this cycle has been to take nothing for granted, to go everywhere, compete everywhere, ask everyone on the ground for their vote. Do not take anything for granted. And that's why you saw the former vice president with former President Obama yesterday in Michigan campaigning. Now, polls, to Tom's point earlier in the earlier segment, polling has been remarkably consistent, I think, in Wisconsin and Michigan. And the former vice president has led the incumbent president anywhere between 7 to 9 points on average in those two states. So again, that's why so much of a focus is on Pennsylvania, where those the polling is a bit closer. But again, take nothing for granted. That is the Biden campaign motto. Work as hard as they can in Wisconsin, Michigan. Move those states back to that blue wall and hold those states as they have been for the last 2 generations in terms of going blue. And as we know, 2016 was that outlier with those 3 key states that flipped for the president.
Okay, again, we are watching live. That's Air Force One has touched down in the Miami area. We are waiting for the president to come down those steps, take the stage, and his final rally of the night will be there in this critical state in Florida. So, Mark, let's talk about these states where we are seeing polling, as Kevin said, in the 7 to 9 point range to the benefit of Mr. Biden. Are those lost causes for Republicans, do you think? I mean, they're outside the margin of error. Things are tightening up as we get closer. What do you think about the Trump campaign making an actual play for some of those states where it doesn't seem like it's really closed up a bunch?
They seem to think that they've got a chance. They wouldn't be wasting time in those states if they didn't think they could win them. You can tell what's competitive by where the president is going, and the reality is, in terms of working hard, Joe Biden took Monday off last week, and he took 4 days off the week before to prepare for the debates. He's been running this basement strategy, whereas Donald Trump's out there doing 5 rallies a day, and some. We're on the 5th rally today. We're here, at almost midnight, and he's starting a campaign rally. I think that if Donald Trump pulls this out, and if some of those states turn out to go for Donald Trump, it's going to be this basement strategy is going to be looked back on the way Hillary Clinton didn't go to Wisconsin as an absolute disaster. If he pulls it out, I mean, he's making a bet basically that Donald Trump, you make this a referendum on Donald Trump and cede the stage to Donald Trump and let him have the stage, and people focus on him and decide whether they want him or not. But right now it seems like that's working for Trump, because Trump is, he's been beating Biden's drum in Pennsylvania on ending the oil industry and fracking. And in Iowa, we just saw polls showing that he's up by 7 points in the Des Moines Register poll. They know that if you get rid of fracking, get rid of oil, that's the end of ethanol. So that's probably had something to do with that as well. So yes, not being on the campaign trail isn't helping Joe Biden.
Yeah. Okay, we are going to take a quick break, and the president is due out in a couple of minutes, so we'll bring you back. We'll take you there live when he hits that 5th rally of the day in Miami, Florida.